Hello and welcome to the Elsabe Smit Show. Our topic for today is ending a relationship. How do you end a relationship and still feel good about yourself? I'm going to look at this from all sorts of maybe unexpected angles and give you a solution that works for absolutely every one of those angles. What kind of a relationship am I talking about? Anything. Whether it's a friendship that just fizzled out, or a friendship that ended as a result of a disappointment, whether it's a love relationship that reached its natural conclusion, whether it's a work relationship, dismissal, it doesn't matter. The process for resolving this is the same. I'll give you some more examples. I know of somebody who left a very traumatic marriage when she fled for her life, and she survived. She had nightmares for something like 15 years before she actually, in her mind, ended that relationship. There was no physical relationship. The emotional ties have sort of been cut off. Obviously, because of the nightmares, there were still these triggers, but the spiritual bond at that level was still there after 15 years, and that took work to end that. Give you another example. A man who had a relationship and his partner died of a prolonged disease. He took care of his partner throughout this disease for a very, very long time. I'm talking years here. And they loved each other to bits. They really had a very strong relationship. Then the partner eventually died from this disease. And a month later, my friend was in another committed relationship. Does that mean he didn't love his ex-partner? No, you can't say this. He's very happy with his new partner, but he's also got very, very fond memories of his previous partner. How did he deal with this? How did he move on so very quickly? That's one of the things we're looking at. Then another tricky one is where a relationship ends with death. Now, when a relationship ends with the other party inflicting their own death, I'm talking suicide. There are really strong emotions for those people that remain behind. And you carry those emotions with you for a very, very long time. Whether it's an accidental or totally self-inflicted, it doesn't matter. It's like it suddenly gets cut off. And how do you deal with that? Especially when it was a turbulent relationship. You have to eventually put it behind you and move on. How do you do that? Death can do many strange things. It can bring forward the true character of somebody who hid their character away for their entire life. And then after their death, you get this massive surprise and you think, this is not the person I knew for decades. This is not the person that I loved and that I cared for and that I had respect for. It's like stripping away the entire relationship. Is that right? Do you just strip away the entire relationship? Do you throw out the baby with the bathwater? How do you ensure that you keep the good memories and you don't punish yourself with the bad that came out after death? Because the person who created all of, or who caused all of these issues and emotions is dead. So you need to deal with that. What is the wisdom in the bad experience that you have? What is the wisdom in the bad experience that you had? Obviously, there's also natural deaths, where somebody died suddenly or because of prolonged disease, but let's look at grief. Any grief because of a natural death. For some people, it continues for years. I just recently read about somebody who, after 40 years, still commemorate the day and still breaks down completely emotionally on that particular day each year, because the grief does not finish. The grief has taken over her life. She has got no life because she lives from one commemoration to another commemoration. There's no celebration. It's just taking off the scabs once a year and experiencing everything right from scratch. There's no need for that. Yes, there is a need for grief. There is a need to say goodbye, but there's no need for it to take over your life. A relationship can end suddenly for another reason, like for a massive betrayal. where you've trusted and respected people for decades, and then you discover that what you thought of them and what they are completely two different things. And you feel, I don't know these people. This is just so completely out of character. How do I move on? How do I deal with myself, with my own issues? Because I can't deal with them. If they are out of my life, I can't deal with them, but I have to deal with myself, with my own issues. I will use the same approach and I will find the wisdom. A relationship that really is not good for you, that you have to walk away from. I've been in a situation at some point in my life where I had to walk away from a love relationship. It was heartbreaking for me. It was the right thing for me to do. I felt immense gratitude and immense growth for me. That relationship will go on forever, but that is only because I choose to hold on to the good memories and not to allow the destructive memories to take over. So if the relationship can continue in that sense, it is okay. I'm saying it's okay, because it is possible that if you only take the good from a relationship and you completely ignore the bad, you then put this person on a pedestal. And there's obviously a reason why I needed to end a particular relationship, even though it was a really good relationship for me. So don't put them on a pedestal. Look at the balance, find the balance. Redundancy, being rejected by the company that you gave so much energy to, being rejected by people that you trusted to look after your future. How on earth do you walk away from redundancy and feel good about yourself and start rebuilding your life? I've been in situations like those before, and it's opened new doors for me. The first time I was absolutely devastated. It really, really floored me. I had so much ego stuff to deal with. I had 4 degrees. I went for 47 interviews before I found another job. It was the best experience ever, in hindsight, because I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about ego stuff that just came in the way and that shouldn't be there. I read something absolutely heartbreaking the other day, where a woman told the story about herself and her toddler child being assaulted to the extent that the child was killed. The woman, in a culture where birth control is a complete no-no, where a hysterectomy or an abortion is a complete no-no, actually had a hysterectomy because it saved her life. Now, she lost her only child, who was murdered by the person who caused such physical injury for her that she ended up with a hysterectomy. How on earth do you get past that? How do you find the good in that? But it's not just personal stuff. It's not just on a personal, individual level that these relationships end. It's also on a much bigger scale, where you have wars. People fight wars so that they can end a relationship. There's the political stuff, withdrawal from the European Union. You know how much upheaval that has caused. Do we or don't we? Well, yes, now we do. The UK is withdrawing from the European Union. That is the end of a relationship. Even if the relationship is very abstract and it involves a lot of politics, it's the end of the relationship. People have lost friendships because of this, because they couldn't find the balance, because they couldn't see the good as well as the bad, and then find the balance and rise to a higher level. While we're on the subject of politics, disappointment in your elected leader, discovering that what was promised and what you get are two completely different things, where you were promised utopia and what you got was embarrassment and being a laughingstock. How on earth do you deal with that? How do you move on? And how do you then make your little world a better place because of your experience or despite your experience? Those are maybe extreme examples of how relationships ended. But I wanted to give you a broad indication of the kind of relationships I'm talking about. I'm talking about any relationship. And how do you deal with the end of that relationship? Now, let me ask you, why does a relationship end? Well, it ends because the people involved have achieved their sole purpose. The contract is completed. That is why the relationship ends. The contract is completed. There's nothing more left. Now, how this contract is completed, that is what I've indicated to you before. It can be very suddenly, it can be abrupt, it can be completely unexpected, it can be with joy, it can be with grief, it can be with lots of negative feelings, but it doesn't matter. The contract is completed, and it can happen in many, many different ways. All of this is about managing inner conflict. Our life purpose is to resolve inner conflict. So any relationship is about managing and resolving this inner conflict. So how do you end this any relationship and you feel good about yourself in the process? You find the balance. You identify what was wonderful about the relationship, and you look at the downside, because you need to find the balance. For everything that's wonderful, there was a downside. For everything that's terrible, there was an upside, and you need to find both. Because when you find both, and when you recognize that both are present in your world, and that both contributed to the end of the relationship, you have a fusion of the good and the bad. You have the balance, and your body moves up to a higher level of vibration. How did this experience make you better, stronger, wiser? How did this experience make you a better person? So you also need to ask yourself, what exactly was it that you lost and then found in a different way? Did you lose a good friend only to find another good friend for the next part of your journey? Obviously, whatever loss you have, there's a void that gets created. How did you fill this void? But maybe another question, are you acknowledging this void? Are you allowing this void? Or are you pretending that the void doesn't exist? Because when you allow the void, then you are able to move forward, and you are able to fill this void with new energy, with what you require for this new part of your journey. Now, you'll say, well, that sounds like a lot of work, and it can take me years to do. Well, it could take you years, it could take you months, because it does require a bit of thinking, it does require a bit of soul searching. It could take you days, like the friend I referred to who lost his partner after a serious illness. That friend had months to experience the worst possible part of his very, very ill partner, and still identify and find the good. By the time the partner passed away, the friend who remained behind had closure, knew what the relationship was about, had found the balance, and then allowed the void, and a new relationship came in. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter whether it's days or weeks, but if it gets into years, you're stuck in that memory. You don't allow the void, and therefore you don't allow the void to be filled. Now you're going to say to me, in some instances, the relationship ends and you would love to just walk away, but you can't because there are other people involved, like a divorce where there are children involved. Guess what? The same process works for that as well. Because if you have inner peace about what you left behind, if you found that balance, if you found the lesson, if you allowed the void, and if you allowed the void to be filled, you have that inner peace. There's no emotion. There's just complete clarity, and everybody wins. Yes, the relationship doesn't end completely, but it continues on a new level. So it's really a brand new relationship. And you know what? When people are in a relationship and there's constant fighting and constant arguing and disagreement, if one party makes peace with that, with the history of the relationship and what happened there, and then walks away with peace, there's nobody left to fight with. And that is where there's no emotion, just complete clarity. So yes, it does work. You're going to say a relationship can leave permanent damage, like this woman who was assaulted to within an inch of her life. What did she gain? What did she gain? I don't know if she ever thought about how she became an inspiration to people, how she managed to get up from that, to dust herself down, to get on with her life. And she's a lovely, loving, lovable person. Does she recognize that gain? Does she acknowledge it? I don't know. But maybe she is a huge inspiration to people and she just doesn't understand it. So when you go through this process, you don't put the relationship behind, because then it becomes baggage. It becomes the bag on your back. That's not the point of it. The point is not to put the relationship behind, but to integrate the experience, to find the good and the bad, to find the balance, to move on, and then to function at a higher level. Now, this is too short a time to give you more details about this, but if you would like to have a look at this little book, which you can find on Amazon, it's called It's Over, How to End a Relationship and Feel Good About Yourself. And no, it's not just about a love relationship. It's about any relationship. You can apply this process to any relationship. Have a look at it. It will really help you to work through the process. So yes, you don't need to carry that baggage from any relationship, no matter how bad it was, no matter how much resentment, anger, grief you feel. You don't need to carry that baggage. You need to work through the process. You need to move on, feel good about yourself, and have the knowledge and the assurance that you have ended that part of your life and integrated the wisdom, and that you are ready for the next part of your life. Good luck with your process. I'll see you next week, same place, same time, 4 o'clock UK time, with another interesting topic. Thank you and goodbye.